I don't have nothing better to do for the last few minutes of my lunch break. So I'm on here bumping my gums. This is Pay Me No Mind, Sports and Entertainment. I just checked out the Noriega or N.O.R.E episode of I Am Athlete. That's the podcast. They have a YouTube channel too here on YouTube. I joke that we're co-workers. But yeah, with B. Marsh, Channing Crowder, Fred Taylor wasn't in on this one, and then Chad Ochocinco Johnson. And it's crazy because they can make this Noriega discussion like it's the most complicated thing in the world. And it's such groundbreaking, it's new news, it's new information. But he got to a point on there where he was talking about being pimped by a record label. And this has been, B.I.G. had the 10 crack commandments. And he said in rule number 10, he said something about a very important word called consignment, not for live mint, or strictly for live, or not for freshmen, strictly for live mint, or strictly for live men, not for freshmen. And it was about taking product on credit from the distributor. How is that any different in being on a rap label? And I appreciate the information because like he laid it all out there. The record label gives you $800,000. And if you want to look at that as you've made it, let me go move mom and the crew and my family, and let me go buy the Lambo, the Ferrari. Let me go buy, put 100 around my neck, 60 on each wrist or whatever, 90 on each wrist, however you split it up. Like if you go burn that up, how am I supposed to sit here and feel sorry for you now? Like the money that they give you is for you to make the album, is to make the product. So just because none of these brothers throughout the years have understood this very simple concept. Now, if you want to get into owning your masters and, the legacy implications of that, like as you get later on into your career and you no longer hot, you no longer have an audience, and how important that money, that your catalog could become 8-10 years down the road, and some movie wants to come along and use your song as the for the trailer, the music on the trailer. If you weren't thinking like that, that's on you. And that should be the beauty of this thing at this point in the where we are. Like all of this information is abundantly available. And that's why I reviewed the album earlier talking about Lord Mob, the record label. I really got to get him. And Griselda has done an excellent job with this. Trust Comes First from 38 Special has done an excellent job with this as far as I can tell. Some of these little small labels, these individual labels that these cats are putting out, they have it figured out. Now, the ironic thing is when you sit here and complain, as an artist sits here and complains about working for the label, when you then turn around and become a label and you have artists underneath you, are you giving them their publishing? Are you giving them rights to their masters? Is the deal any better? Or are you doing pimping too? Are you still pimping here in 2021? The name of this video should have been Everybody Has a Boss. Everybody. And that's where the internet came in and was basically a cheat code for everybody, because artists could blow up on the internet on their own, and then the label would come find you and try to deal with you. And I think, Master P got a great deal when he went to a major. The Hot Boys, Baby and them and whatnot, they did well when they did set up their imprint. A lot of people have won. So I don't understand this. We got boxers talking about they get hosed out of money. We got NBA players and football players get hosed out of money. Like, it's very simple. If you spend 4 and 5, 6 times more than what you signed your deal for, or you don't even understand the parameters of your deal, you're going to get screwed. I don't get it. But overall, it was a pretty good episode. Obviously Noriega has done well with the drink champs and whatnot, but he said something on there about like, I want to go to work when I want to go to work. I want to work how I want to work. I want to work who I want to work with. I want to make all of these decisions. I want to show up when I want to show up. And we all want that. Everybody wants that. But you have to have the talent, or you have to have the following. You have to be able to deliver. You have to have some numbers or something to put in front of somebody to be able to move like that. And that's what's dope for him and DJ Effin or EFN, whatever his name is. That's what's dope, that they got into that space very early, and the Drink Champs name and brand is what it is. And it's allowed him to go and do what he's doing now. But then he turned right around in the next sentence and was like, but if I don't show up on time when we book an artist, if he was like, if I'm not there to make sure everything is set up and goes correct, that falls on me. So you still have a boss. The demands of running a successful podcast is the boss. You can't sit here and screw off and jack off people's time, And I know I could imagine in the entertainment world, if we supposed to sit down at 3 o'clock, they might not come to the door till 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock or whatever. I don't know what the setup is, who they have working in the studio, setting up the audio and all. I don't know. But, time is money. And, you see what people's professionalism is, or how they respect your time and whatnot. But to just sit here and act like, and let's keep it funky. To sit here with a podcast, yeah, and he even alluded to it. Early in the process, 6 million views, 6 million listens, 6 million streams, 6 million downloads. But then as you get further along into the process and those numbers die down, what do you do next? Or if the numbers die off totally, what do you do next? So, I think it's dope that all of these different cats got out here and got into the podcast game. Jeezy's The Recession, or whatever the hell his was, T.I. with Expeditiously, whatever. Everybody. My son, I think, had a podcast or has a podcast. It's dope. I said years ago when I started doing it, when I was listening to the Combat Jack show, that this was the next phase for hip hop. And obviously it works out in the favor of an artist, of a rapper. Questlove is another dude. But obviously it works out in the favor of a popular artist. When you're not paying anybody, you're not paying a producer for a beat. You're not paying any marketing and promotion, and getting it. And then let's back up. Let's back up when we go back to N.O.R.E's his whole point. Rap music was always going to be challenging for a rap artist because the music was not original music. A lot of this music was sampled from an original source. So when you go to talking about the money that you've been fronted to go out here and make this album, well, how much do you spend on that album? And how much do you spend on this one sample that might make or break the project? But if you go to try to get this Michael Jackson sample, or this sample from Queen, or this sample from Metallica, or this sample from Miles Davis, or whatever, Michael Jackson or Prince, when you go to get these samples and they tell you what the price of it is, or what's going to be the royalty, every time that song is sold, how much of that sale is going to go to the original artist versus you. All of this stuff comes into the equation. Other forms of music didn't have this overhead naturally baked into it. That's why country western music continues to do very well for the artists. They make the majority of their music. It's original music. This is why the Southern rappers seem to be making more money than the New York cats, because New York money was based on samples. A lot of the samples from the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the songs from the 80s and the 90s have 4, 5, and 6 samples in one record. So of course, by the time the sale of a single filters down to the artist, yeah, you shit out of luck. But again, going back to a lot of the Southern rappers, as they started coming on the scene, they had the wherewithal or the forethought and the creativity and all of that type of stuff. The South being the South, really truly getting it out of the mud. They came in making their own music and didn't have to pay for sampling, sampling and clearance fees and royalty and all that type of stuff moving forward. So I just think over and all, I appreciate Noriega's, it was a good discussion. Although, the I Am Athlete team, sometimes some of them don't know what the hell they talking about or not. The one dude on there, Jared, though, he's a pretty thoughtful brother. B. Marsh usually catches up. Chad Ochocinco asked a couple of decent questions. A lot of these podcasts are just good discussions. You take from them the nuggets that they have here and there, and you run with that. But to sit here and to continue to act like NFL players are being cheated, NBA players are being cheated, boxers are being cheated. Hey, if you have a chance to get multiple lump sums of money, if you get 16 game checks, 82 game checks, 162 game checks, if you fight 3 times a year, if you can't figure out how to maximize your take home from that bag and from them negotiations and those contracts and those deals, well, you deserve to get your money taken in 2021. You deserve to get your money taken. Noriega was also very honest on there. He said, on the Super Thug, one of his best charting songs, he said that Pharrell had like 50% ownership of that track. He produced it. That's why it pays to be a producer. And it was original music from what I recall. I don't think that was no sample. So again, a lot of these podcasts and programs run out here talk about how people are getting done in, how brothers are getting screwed. I just watched a video from RJ Payne with Ice Cube. He's long been talking about how the rap game is how it's a pimp business. Every job in America is damn near a pimp business. Every one of them. Let's look at The Wire. D'Angelo wasn't being pimped by his uncle, Avon. D'Angelo wasn't intern pimping Poop, Wallace, and Bodie, and the rest of the team. They were paying them top dollar. They're the ones out on the corner risking their lives and being shot and jacked by Omar, risking catching cases and going away, getting arrested and becoming incarcerated. Who was putting more on the line than them to sell your product, for you to cut them off whatever portion you felt like giving them from the overall take? Like, everybody has a boss in this thing. I don't get it. But then we have individuals like, I can't even think of my man. He had Tech Nine. Was doing very well for himself at one point in time with his audience and his music, which may or may not have had a lot of samples in it. But he was another guy that got a very good solo deal or was independent and making it work. Then you bring in the merchandise and everything. I think it's exciting that that so many of these guys have figured out hip hop and how to really maximize their earnings and do more. If you don't want the help of the label, and you want to work that hard to do all of that, you can do that. Last comment that I'm gonna get on off of here, Noriega says something, and we all know that it's a young artist game, and that, a guy starts to getting to be around 28, 30, maybe 32, and, a lot of guys start falling off. But he said these different reasons why hip hop artists have it so difficult. But let's keep it funky. Like a lot of guys, a lot of artists, as they age and they get away from the streets that they derived all of their content from and their subject matter from, the stuff that they rapped about, when they're no longer in those situations regularly, don't have that same hunger and just don't have their hand on the pulse of what's going on in the streets and can't draw from that inspiration. A lot of these guys can't make albums. You can't be 35 years old and still talking about being a killer when you haven't been in the streets since you were 18 or 20. It's going to be a difference. So he kind of blamed it on the fans that we turn our backs on a lot of these artists. But a lot of these guys, as they age, their creativity fails them. And who the hell is going out buying music that's not good anymore? But that's why I'm sitting here. I've celebrated Nas coming out with the King's Disease project, King's Disease 2. Even if I don't fully, think the album is a classic or a top 3 project in his catalog or whatever, that's what N.O.R.E mentioned on there. He said he's been in touch with Pharrell, and he said he was trying to get Nas involved. He's got a record that he wants him to be on. But I'm just saying, I say all that to say, for some of these artists, as you get older, you might not be able to go out there and make a 13-track album. You might not be able to go out there and put 18 records on the album, and all of them or the majority of them are good. You might not be able to make an album with 22 records on there. But we know now that the game is accepting of EPs that are 5 songs or 7 songs. No more than 13, you probably good. So get out there and find you a dope producer who might, have the right rates for you and has the music that truly inspires you. And then go get you a few features with key new guys or current guys and make you a solid album. But some of these guys, and I feel sorry for people like Rakim, Big Daddy Kane. It was the way that when the game really transitioned on those guys, and they really couldn't come back around and make an album that people were interested in, that was pretty sad. But a very successful example, a couple years ago, Master Ace had a project called A Brooklyn Story, I think was the name of it. And it was solely produced by this cat from Canada named Marco Polo. I had time and listened to it and was like, damn, this is really, I listened to it multiple times, rocked with it for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And that was and it might have been quite a few records on there, but I'm just saying it can be done. I just think a lot of these guys get lazy, or just don't have anything to say. They lose their formula, or their formula becomes outdated. And, people are only going to buy what compels them to buy it. I'm not just going to come out and buy a N.O.R.E record because he made Super Thug years ago. Your lead-off single has to catch my attention and make me want to listen to more, and go dig in and find the entire project. So anyway, check it out. I'm on here, like I said, I didn't have nothing to do for my lunch break, some afternoon wood, and thought I'd just come on. I would suggest checking out the podcast. Of course, Noriega is a funny guy, and he's done well for himself, reinventing himself as a podcast host and as an interviewer and all of that type of stuff. So, it's a lesson. It's a real lesson to learn in watching, how some other dudes are moving and having a second career, a new stream of income and all of that. Salute. Let me get off of here, man. You don't have to be great to start, but you had to start to be great. Have a great weekend. Damn, it's only Tuesday. I'll be back on here before that. Definitely. Peace.